What video or recording is perfectly innocent, but becomes terrifying when you look into the story behind it? My mom and I recently watched one of those 2020th shows, and they were talking about a woman who went out drinking one night, and was never seen again. She had gone back to one guy's apartment, but hotel footage showed her leave shortly after arriving, and the guy in the apartment swore he didn't do anything to her. But they kept interviewing this one guy, who was the last guy to see her alive. They stopped at a gas station, and he claims that she started talking to another guy, got in his car and left. He played the whole "if I had only known, I wouldn't have let her go" act, with tears and everything. Well, there's footage of him at his job a couple days later, and the footage is super generic. He has a cooler on a rolling cart, and he's putting it in a freezer. He worked for a food production company. When the police interviewed his boss, they asked to see all of her footage, and she obliged. When they got to that part of the footage, him putting the cooler in the freezer, she told police to stop. She said that those coolers were used to store granola bars, and there was zero reason for those bars to be put in the freezer. The girl's body was in there. He took it out back and burned basically everything in a barrel down the alley a couple days later, but it was before the police had seen the footage. And he had bleached his entire van before police could search it. The dating game. The concept appeared innocent enough. A woman chooses a bachelor out of the 3 available contestants and they go on a date. However, the game in 1978 turned dark when serial killer Rodney Alcala was nominated to be a contestant and actually won the game. The contestant refused to go out with him on the date because she thought he was actually creepy afterwards. She dodged a bullet. The TV show The Willis Family that had 2 seasons on TLC. The dad was super controlling of his 12 kids and wife and just gave off creepy vibes. I was shocked though to find out that he had been raping his own daughters for years, with the oldest saying that molestation started when she was 3. All 12 children were homeschooled and did dance and wrestling, but only with each other. They were so isolated from other people. He was also strict about his daughters saving themselves for marriage even though he was them. There's a clip from the show of him discussing all the kids building houses on his property so his future grandchildren would be close by. It's like he was trying to set up his next victims for when his daughters grew up. The worst part is the mom knew for a while but didn't do anything about it. It was a family friend that ended up reaching out to authorities, which led to his arrest and sentence of 40 years. It's super creepy to see clips of the show knowing what was happening behind closed doors. The James Bulger video. I'm on mobile and I'm a bit lazy, but it's a seemingly innocent video of a 2-year-old boy, James, holding the hand of an older child. James was tortured and murdered by 2 10-year-old kids who led him away from his mother for a split second at a shopping center. The song Anne Marie sings in All Dogs Go to Heaven about wanting a loving home. While recording, the voice actress, Judith Barcy, kept crying. Her home life was awful. Her father was abusive to both her and her mother and would often threaten to kill or hurt them. Judith died before the movie came out. She and her mother were killed by her father and then he killed himself. She was 10. My dad couldn't watch that without crying with rage. As a kid it didn't make sense, because then he'd turn off the TV and just hug me till my ribs creaked. What a creepily wholesome metaphor, hugged me till my ribs creaked. What about the video that was on Tosh.0 where there were 2 girls and the dad tied them in a playful way to the bed? But it was really like a pedo tutorial on how to do this to kids so the pedo could do what they wanted. Tosh said on the show it was creepy and the guy's whole YouTube channel was weird. A few months later the FBI or something investigated it and it turned out the guy was a pedo abusing the girls and exploiting them on his kids' YouTube channel. That video looked creepy innocent until you find out the real story. Reminds me of that picture of 2 girls on their knees eating whipped cream off an older guy's knees. The girls are smiling, probably thinking they're playing some goofy game, when obviously in reality the guy is grooming them to normalize that behavior. I hope those girls are okay. I was at a friend's house. My friend's dad yelled down from upstairs, "Someone was struck and killed by lightning at Venice Beach today." I got cold, looked at my friend and said, "Damn, that could have been any one of us." Get home and later find out that one of my friends was out in Venice when a lightning storm hit, striking the water. He wasn't even in the water until he ran in to grab the people that had been struck and incapacitated. He ran in to save them, and when he did, he got struck and died instantly. Broke my heart, but that was the kind of person Nicholas Fagnano was, selfless and perfectly kind. Edit, it's possible I created the scenario in my head. The LA Times article about my friend states that he just went into the water to rinse off and was the only person to be struck. I emphatically remember being told he went in there to grab someone, but I think it may have been too hard for me to deal with, and I had to create a scenario where he chose to give his life for someone else to make it easier on myself. I apologize for possibly misleading you guys. I had no idea. I must have told myself the story for so long it became my reality. There was a picture of a 16-17-year-old girl floating around very briefly years back. It was just an innocent picture of some teen posing for a photo. Look deeper into it and it turns out the girl was from a rich family and had a drug problem. She got into an argument with her dad, stormed out and stole his car, did a bunch of coke, then crashed into a bridge going hella fast. She was killed instantly. As sad as that is, the up part is why the photo was being passed around. Somehow the photos taken as the scene of the crash found their way online, and horrifically cruel people decided to send out fake memorial emails to this girl's family. Opening the email seemed innocent enough. A heartfelt subject about how terrible this was, a photo of this girl before she died, but scroll any further and there were the pictures of her corpse with messages taunting her loved ones. I found one of these messages and her body was not in one piece. It was mangled. Seeing your daughter's corpse is one thing, seeing it in that state is something else, but to have people playing with it online for no other reason than to hurt you is unthinkable. There was a celebrity in the UK called Jimmy Savile who presented many BBC programs in the 1970s, especially ones with a younger audience. He did a campaign for seatbelt awareness and was a patron for many charities for the vulnerable. He was probably the most loved celebrity for decades. After his death, he was revealed as the country's worst child offender who used his fame and proximity to children to them. Any picture or TV footage of him near kids was probably shot just before or after he'd someone. Actress Melissa Benoist was on Jimmy Fallon in 2016. She told a story about a time she fell and tore up half her face and one of her eyes. She made jokes about it, and no one really thought about it. Last year she revealed that one of her exes was very violent when they were together. She revealed that the story she told on Jimmy Fallon was a cover-up story. The real story is that her husband, at the time, had thrown an iPhone in her face. It's so creepy knowing that said ex was almost definitely Blake Jenner, who she starred in Glee with. I can't bear to rewatch any of the season his character is in, creeps me out too much. That set must have been hell for her too, what with Lea Michele also hating her. Dr. Nasser's sports medicine videos. He's one of the docs for USA Gymnastics and has had a ton of videos on his website of him demonstrating various sports med techniques and treatments. It looks professional on the surface. The thing is, some of his techniques are totally made up. Some techniques he demonstrated on video he would digitally penetrate, finger, young in the end. He performed these techniques on hundreds of young girls under the guise of it being for their health and sometimes directly in front of their parents, sometimes while aroused. Watch Athlete A on Netflix if you want the story on this scumbag. He's imprisoned in a facility specifically for inmates that can't be with general population because of the nature of their crime, i.e. guys that would be brutalized by other inmates. I've been to one of those facilities as a contractor. Cause hate those inmates. They're the worst of the worst. Maybe not that innocent to begin with, but extra creepy knowing the truth. A video of an African gray parrot named Bud saying "don't shoot." He witnessed his owner, Martin Durham, being by his wife. IRC Bud also mimicked both sides of verbal fights, alternating between a male and female voice. I believe the parrot testified in court. The wife was convicted. Edit, Bud did not testify, sorry to get your hopes up. He was however a useful witness during the investigation.